Yo, what's up, gamers? So, I walked into the break room last night ready to clock out. I grab a soda, pretend the world doesn't exist for 5 minutes, but instead there's a monitor glowing in the corner. Not paused, not on screensaver, just open. And what's staring back at me? An auction listing. Not from Craigslist, not from some shady Discord. Nah, it's straight up from Diablo 3. Items with buyout prices, biddings rolling in. Gear that used to drop from a demon lord now had a goddamn market value. Now I'm standing there mop in hand thinking, since when did slaying the Lord of Terror turn into checking your stock portfolio? Because welcome to the Janitor Files, the show where I drag out the dusty messes the gaming industry tries to sweep under the rug. And this is the start of episode 8. So before we dive into this corporate fever dream, do me a favor, smash that like button if you've ever felt like a game was working you, subscribe so you don't miss the next cleanup, and drop a comment down below. Would you keep playing if the fastest way to get stronger was opening your wallet instead of swinging a sword? Because what happened in Diablo 3 wasn't just a bad feature, it was a system that quietly rewired the entire reason people picked up the controller. And once that switch flipped, there was no easy undo. So let's grab a mop, because we're gonna clean up how Blizzard turned legendary loot into a marketplace and why the players almost walked out with their time cards punched in. Alright, let's set the stage like I'm explaining this mess to a new hire on their first shift. Diablo 3 dropped on May 15th, 2012 from Blizzard Entertainment. This wasn't just some filler sequel, it was the long-awaited follow-up to Diablo 2. A game that had players glued to their screens for a week chasing that one god roll piece of gear. You dive into hellish dungeons, carve through hordes of demons and bosses, and the reward is simple. Better weapons, smarter armor, stronger builds that feel earned. The magic of Diablo had always been that addictive loop. Kill monsters, they drop loot. That loot lets you kill even nastier monsters. No fancy story cutscenes needed, just a rush of knowing that any second something completely broken could drop and flip your character from zero to hero. Your power came from the grind, from the fight, from what you clawed out of the darkness yourself. Yeah, that loot was about to get slapped with a price tag that changed everything. And here's where the janitor's nightmare begins. Right from launch, Blizzard didn't just build a loot game, they installed a full-blown economy inside it. 2 auction houses actually. The gold auction house, where you farm items in-game, sell them for gold, other players buy with the currency they earn, kinda normal for an MMO style of setup. And then they have the real money action house. This bad boy launched in June 2012. It lets you buy and sell gear with actual dollars, using PayPal, Battle.net balance, whatever. Blizzard took a cut on every deal, like a bouncer charging admission to the dungeon. Suddenly every rare drop wasn't just potential power for you, it had real world value. You could list the epic find and turn demon slaying into side income, or skip the entire grind and just buy the perfect item for your build. On paper, it sounded genius. Blizzard patched it in as a fix for Diablo 2's Wild West trading scene. No more shady third-party sites, no more getting scammed in trade chat, no more hacking accounts and duped items. Everything safe, tracked, and official. But in practice, it didn't just change how people traded, it changed why they logged in. And once loot had a dollar sign attached, the game stopped feeling like an adventure and started feeling like a shift. Pretty quick, the vibe shifted hard, because before the auction house, you'd rip through a dungeon with that delicious uncertainty. What's gonna drop? That excitement kept you pushing. But afterwards, every single drop came with a mental spreadsheet. Was this worth on the auction house? Should I equip it or should I flip it? Players stopped experimenting with weird builds and started running the same efficient farming routes over and over. Not for fun, but for profit margins. As for upgrades, why waste hours hoping for a lucky drop when you could hop into a menu, search for the exact stats you need, and buy in seconds? Grinding lost its point. Some folks spend more time browsing listings than actually swinging weapons. Others turned it into a straight side hustle, farming specific bosses, flipping gear, treating rare drops like inventory to liquidate. The core loop went from play, earn, grow stronger, to farm, sell, buy, and repeat. You weren't a hero clearing hell anymore, you were middle management optimizing spreadsheets in a demon factory. Now the part that still makes me shake my head while sweeping up popcorn in the break room, this wasn't some greedy corporate sabotage, at least not how they saw it. Blizzard built the auction house to solve a real headache from Diablo 2. Trading there was chaos, spamming global chat, dealing with sketchy external sites, constant scams, dupes, and hacks. It was the Wild West with better graphics. Their fix? Bring it all in-house. Create a safe official marketplace, control the economy, cut out the scammers, and yeah, skim a little off the top while making trading convenient. Game director Jay Wilson later admitted the main driver was security, legitimate trading so players wouldn't leave the game for shady sites and reduce the incentive for hacks. They didn't expect it to print money, but on paper everybody wins. Cleaner trades, fewer fraud cases, stable prices. What they didn't plan for was how players would exploit it. Give folks an efficient system, and they'll optimize the soul right out of the game. Players don't just trade, they min-max everything, including the fun. But here's where it all cracked. The auction house didn't just exist, it became the best way to play the game. The fastest path to power wasn't fighting tougher bosses or mastering your class anymore, it was opening a menu and clicking buy now. Meanwhile, the base loot system at launch felt stingy. Good drops were rare, and a lot of what hit the ground was junk that didn't even match your class. Why farm for hours or slim odds when the auction house had exactly what you wanted? Every drop stopped feeling like a potential jackpot, it became a calculation. Sell, keep, or vendor. The excitement evaporated, you weren't chasing power anymore, you were chasing the best deal. But the players of the community caught on fast. Forums lit up, at first there was grumbles, like something feels off. Then it turned into full frustration about how the game felt unrewarding, grinding felt pointless, loot felt meaningless. The killer question that kept popping up, why am I even playing if I can just buy my way to the top? Diablo was supposed to be about earning your strength through blood, sweat, and demon guts. Instead, it's starting to feel like a pay to win. Even if you didn't have to spend the money, the most efficient route sure encouraged it. Skill took a backseat to budget. Hype died quick. Some players bounced entirely. Others stuck around but spent their seasons in menus instead of combat. Blizzard was watching the forums, the drop-off numbers, the complaints piling up like trash in the corner. They couldn't ignore it forever. The mess was getting too big to sweep. In a move you didn't see every day, Blizzard owned it publicly. On September 17, 2013, they announced both the gold and real money auction houses were shutting down for good. And on March 18, 2014, they flipped the switch. Listings gone, trading system erased, the marketplace had quietly dictated how everyone played just vanished. But removal was only step one. The real work was fixing the hole left in the game's soul. Time to rebuild from the trash pile. And once the auction house disappeared, something clicked. The game started feeling like Diablo again. By this time, Blizzard rolled out Loot 2.0, timed perfectly with the Reaper of Souls expansion. Drops became smarter and more frequent. Gear rolled stats that actually fit your class and build. Legendaries felt legendary. This is when many top items went account bound. If it dropped for you, it was yours to use, not to flip. That old rush came back. Clear a rift, see something glow, and actually get excited because it might be a real upgrade. No mental math about resale value. Players started returning again, the game recovered, and for a lot of folks, it became genuinely fun again. But the lesson stuck like gum on the underside of a desk when you tie a real-world value to core rewards. Players stop being adventurers and start clocking in as employees. This story still echoes today in every game that experiments with player economies, NFTs, or real money trading. Efficiency can win until it kills the magic. So what's the takeaway from this whole disaster cleanup? This wasn't just a flawed feature or a rocky launch, it was a masterclass in how systems shape behavior. Players will always take the most efficient path, not necessarily the fun one. When that path stops being play the game and becomes work the menu, the whole experience collapses. Blizzard didn't build a broken system, they built one that worked too well. Just not for the power fantasy dungeon crawler Diablo was meant to be. Every time a game ties progression to markets, wallets, or pure optimization over experience, you risk the same flip. Turning heroes into hourly workers, and nobody clocks in to fight demons just to file taxes on the loot. So yeah, that Diablo 3 setup I found in the break room is still sitting there, monitor on, looking more like an abandoned storefront than a game. But in today's episode, we covered how Diablo 3's auction house turned a legendary loot-driven action RPG into a marketplace that rewarded buying and selling over actually playing. We saw how it shifted the entire loop from earning power through grinding to optimizing profits, sparked massive community backlash, forced Blizzard to shut down in 2014, and that eventually led to the much better Loot 2.0 system that brought players back. But at this point, I gotta bounce. I gotta clock out because my shift's over and I don't want to get in trouble if I start getting overtime. But before I go, do me a favor. If you enjoyed this cleanup, hit that like button, subscribe for more gaming industry messes I drag into the light, and drop your thoughts in the comments down below. Was the auction house a smart idea that just went too far? Or was it broken from the moment they put a price tag on loot? This is Scruffy the Janitor signing off. Peace out.